We have an exclusive interview with Breonna Taylor's boyfriend. His name is Kenneth Walker. Now, he was with Taylor when she was killed by Louisville police officers on March 13th. He told us that they were in bed watching a movie when police raided the apartment as part of a narcotics investigation that was targeting her ex-boyfriend. We should point out that Kenneth Walker and Breonna Taylor do not have a criminal history, and no illegal drugs were found in that home. We went to Louisville over the weekend to talk with Kenneth Walker about that night.
To the world, it's just a hashtag, a picture, and all of that. But to me, it was much more. More than a girlfriend, too. I think that's what I want the world to know the most. That was my best friend. The most important person, pretty much, to me on the earth, and they took her.
Let's go back to that day. What kind of day was it for you two?
It was a normal day. It was a relaxed day. Really just chilling and just being us. You know, we went on a date, went out to eat, went back in the house, playing, watching a movie.
Take us to that moment when your life really changed forever.
It was a loud bang at the door. Nobody was responding when we were saying, "Who is it?"
You all did ask, "Who is it?"
Several times, both of us. And there was no response.
The police say that they said several times, "It's the police."
If they knock on the door and say who it was, we can hear them. It's dead silent. I know 1,000,000% sure that nobody identified themselves.
So the next thing you hear, the door flies off the hinges. Are you feeling afraid?
Definitely afraid. But I don't have much room to be afraid because I got somebody here that I got to take care of.
So you hear the heavy knocking, and what do you do?
So now at that point, we're getting up to put on clothes, make ourselves decent to answer the door. Then I grab my gun.
We should also say you were licensed to carry the gun.
For sure. That was the one time I had to use it. I mean, if it was the police at the door and they just said we're the police, me or Breonna didn't have a reason at all not to open the door and see what they wanted.
So the doors fly off the hinges.
I let off one shot, and I'm figuring if somebody's trying to break in or something, they're not going to want to do anything after that.
And after that, what happens?
I don't think I ever heard so many gunshots like all at the same time. I've never been to war, but I assume that's what war probably sounds like.
One officer fired 6 shots, Officer Mattingly. Officer Cosgrove fired 16 shots. Officer Hankinson fired 10 shots. That is a lot of firepower.
I still try to make sense of it to this day. There was definitely nowhere to hide. There's bullets coming in every direction.
When did you realize that Breonna had been shot?
I guess in the middle of all the gunfire, like she screamed, but like I was holding her hand.
You were holding her hand?
Yeah, like while this was happening, I pulled her down to the ground. But she was just scared, so she just didn't get down. So
in the middle of all of this, you realize that she's been hit. Was she alive at the time?
She was still, and when all the gunfire stopped, she was like bleeding and stuff, and I was holding her. Then that's when I called my mom.
You called your mom first?
Yeah, I told her that somebody just kicked in the door and shot Breonna, and she's freaking out at this point, but she told me to call 911, so I did.
911, Operator Harris, where is your emergency?
I don't know what's happening. Somebody kicked in the door and shot my girlfriend.
While you're on the phone, you don't know it's the police.
I didn't know it was the police, not at all. And I even proceeded to tell 911 that, somebody just kicked in the door and shot my girlfriend. If I knew who it was, I would have said the police. Oh, I wouldn't have been calling the police on the police. Like, that doesn't even make sense.
Where was she shot at?
I don't know. She's on the grill right now. I don't know.
Is she alert and able to talk to you?
No, she's not. Breathe. God.
In the midst of me talking to 911, I'm like, well, Breonna's mama should know about this too. I hung up on them and I called her mom.
The police didn't come rushing in?
Not at all. I don't think I realized that it was the police until I was on the phone with Breonna's mom. I hear like people outside talking. I thought they was, coming for help because I called 911.
So you think they're coming to help you?
Yes. So when I come outside, there's guns pointed at me. I'm being threatened with dogs and whatever else.
Don't look back. Put your hands behind your head. that's what's going on.
The officer asked me, was I hit by any bullets? I said no. He said, that's unfortunate. So that threw me off too. So I'm like, what's he mean by that?
That's unfortunate, he said to you after you've just lost your girlfriend and you don't know what is happening. What did you think when he said that?
I didn't know what to think, and I really wasn't worried about me. The only reason I'm even out here is because the only way for her to get help in there is for me to be out here.
We were scared. No, we didn't know who it was. We didn't even know who it was.
And then I was in the back of the car. I don't know. I got drugged all the way down the street. It was cold, it was wet. I didn't want any socks and shoes on gravel, rocks, and everything, and they were just dragging me like I had scabs and stuff on my feet from that.
When they take you to the police station, still no socks and shoes?
Still no socks and shoes. When we finally left the scene, we pulled over in like a random parking lot on Manslick, which is the street like at the bottom of the hill down the street from Breonna's apartment. And another officer in an unmarked car, and he wasn't in uniform and stuff, and he came to my window, but his tone was way different than everybody else's who was just on the scene.
How so? Different how?
He told me that this was a misunderstanding, and we're gonna get to the bottom of it, and asking me, did I need anything? Did I need water and this and that?
Hey, partner, can I get your name? Kenneth Walker. Matt, there was a little bit of miscommunication. I wanted to talk to you before they left.
And then when I got to the police headquarters or whatever it was, they took the handcuffs off me and everything. I was walking around, I went to the bathroom.
Go ahead, when you get there, you can take the handcuffs off.
So clearly y'all know something's wrong, because you don't...
You're allowed to move freely.
Yeah, you don't allegedly shoot a police officer and they take the handcuffs off you.
Were you surprised to hear that you were accused of shooting a police officer?
I definitely was surprised, but I was more concerned about, is he okay and is Breonna okay? At this point, I still didn't even know if she was alive or not.
So when did officers tell you you were going to be charged with attempted murder? When did you hear that?
Maybe like 5 or 6 in the morning that same night.
What did you think?
I was worried about if Breonna was okay or not.
When were you finally told that Breonna didn't make it?
I never really got told, like, directly. I saw it on the news.
That's how you heard Breonna Taylor died, on the news?
Pretty much. And I was in the cell, and it was like on the news, and it said one, female dead. It confirmed it. I didn't know for sure what condition, she was in when I left. So I didn't know what they did, but as these body cam videos and stuff come out, I see they did nothing. Clearly we see the SWAT team in there, and she was still in there. They're still like casing the apartment with her laying right there on the ground.
Apartment 4 is now a crime scene. Let's go ahead and move out, all right? She's done.
Disrespectful.
Do you think if you had not survived this incident, that we would be hearing the story that we're hearing today? If you had not survived it?
Definitely not. There wouldn't be a story. You probably wouldn't even know about it. If I didn't live, you probably wouldn't even know about Breonna Taylor.
Breonna Taylor or Kenny Walker?
Or Kenny Walker. I don't want everybody to know about Kenny Walker now. As long as everybody knows Breonna Taylor.
And what do you want us to know about Breonna Taylor?
Just, she would have did anything for anybody. She took care of a lot of people. There's a lot of people that need her bad right now, including me.
Boy, wow.
A grand jury accepted the Kentucky Attorney General's recommendation not to charge any officers for Breonna Taylor's death. Both the Louisville Metro Police Department and attorneys for 3 individual officers involved declined our requests for interviews or for comment. In our exclusive interview, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend told us about his struggles with the emotional trauma of her death. Kenneth Walker was with Taylor the night she was killed by Louisville police officers during a narcotics raid in March. Now, police were investigating another man. Neither Walker nor Taylor had a criminal history, and no illegal drugs were found in the home. Walker told us his love story with Taylor began actually on Twitter. We went to the Louisville home to talk to him and his parents, who considered Taylor family. They say that she brought joy into everybody's life. Kenny, I want to know about Breonna Taylor. What was it about her that attracted you to her?
She was funny, like me. And I could see from Twitter she played a lot, just like me, always joking, always laughing.
Come here. Come here. Come here, girl. Get away from me. I hate you. These two.
How did you know that she was the one for you?
We was friends for a long time before it ever evolved into anything else. So I think that's how I knew she was the one. We was too good at being friends, but it ended up working out. And finally, we was getting it together, right?
Getting it together like you thought I could marry you, get it together, that
For
kind of
sure.
thing?
That was definitely in the talks. Definitely had baby names and everything.
Like?
Like Kimbry.
Oh, that's Kenneth and Breonna together. Ah. Walker says he and Taylor were collecting their favorite items for the family they hoped to build, like this pair of mini Air Jordans for the baby they wanted together. Looking at these baby shoes, what do they mean?
To me, it means it's something that's never going to happen.
Walker's parents, Valisha and Kenneth Walker Jr., have been supporting their son through his grief and want justice for Breonna Taylor, the woman who would have been their daughter-in-law.
I say it all the time, as a mom, you want the best mate for your children, and she just completed us. She completed the family.
On the night of the police raid, Kenneth says in his fear and panic, he called his mother for help before calling 911. Valisha Walker rushed to the scene, and recordings released by Louisville police show that she spoke to officers about what her son told her that night.
He called me and said, "Mama, they kicked in the door. They kicked in the door. I don't know what's going on." It's just one of those calls as a mom that we hope we never get at 1 o'clock in the morning.
He couldn't tell you what had happened, could he?
He didn't know. I didn't hear anything at first in the background. I just heard him screaming and crying.
What's your biggest concern as we sit here today about Kenneth?
It's hard. I'm mama. I can see things about him that he doesn't even realize. Whereas when they were little kids, if you had a bump on it, I could,
you could fix
kiss it, I could blow it, but I can't fix this.
I've only listened to that 911 call once or twice, and it took me months to listen to it. And the thing is, his whole life, I've always been there to help him or to be there for him, and I couldn't help him.
Because he was considered a suspect in the beginning.
Right. And I mean, think about it. Reality is he's still a suspect in their mind. He's still their scapegoat.
In the chaos that followed the death of Breonna Taylor on March 13th, Walker was indicted for the attempted murder of a police officer. In May, those charges were dropped without prejudice, which means the case can be refiled in the future. For Kenneth and his family, it is a stark possibility that they never could have imagined.
The simple lessons that we teach them, that we hold true as parents. The lessons that we treat them, ain't nothing good for you going on at the street. Stay at home. Here you are, this one time you at home. And you get in the worst trouble you've ever been.
At home.
At home. And you did nothing wrong. But do what you were taught to do. Be a man. Protect your family. Tell the truth.
Hey, stop playing with me. It's like March 13th every day, pretty much. I never got to say bye. So that makes a big deal. It makes a big difference.
When it first happened, you're labeled a suspect, Breonna's labeled a suspect, and the police officer who was shot is labeled a victim. What do you make of that?
It's usually how it goes when you're black and dealing with police. That's all I think of that. I don't necessarily even see this as a black-white issue. It became that after they figured it out, but it's just a right and wrong issue. It don't matter if he was blue, pink, purple, white, black. It doesn't really matter. It could have been elderly people in there. It could have been kids. It could have been anything. So they were just wrong all the way around the board, no matter who was in there. But it definitely turned into a black and white thing when I walked out.
Yeah, we should say that neither you or Breonna Taylor had a criminal history of violence or drugs.
I guess that doesn't matter to them either, though. People like to skip over that part.
Where do you go from here? I mean, I look at you and I just see so much pain, and rightfully so. Do you have friends who are helping you?
I actually do have a therapist, and I probably need to, I'll be talking to him a lot more.
Yeah.
But I really don't agree with therapy, but you got to try everything to try to be okay.
When you hear the chant, say her name, what does that mean to you when you hear that?
It just means she's getting the respect that she deserves. That's the least that can happen.
What does justice look like for you for Breonna Taylor?
Breonna Taylor sitting right here next to me. That's the only justice for me.
Wow.
None of the officers involved were charged for Breonna Taylor's death. Both the Louisville Metro Police Department and attorneys for the 3 individual officers involved declined our request for interview or comment on this case. And another thing that was really touching, when we were at her house, because he couldn't go to the funeral because he was in prison for attempted murder of a police officer, Breonna Taylor's mother has given him a little urn of her ashes. And they showed us the ashes. I didn't show it on camera, but just to be able to hold it and see it was very, very, I could physically feel that.
Yes.
Of course, it means a lot to him to have it, but there's just so many inconsistencies in this story.
He is such a compelling interview. And as we were talking in the break, but one of the things I said to you was, this started with a warrant that clearly was misguided. They were at the wrong place. And that's what, I want to know how that warrant got there.
Yeah, that's why Kenneth says it's not a black-white issue to him. It's a
right or wrong
right or wrong issue.
And you understand why he reacted the way he did, because this is the thing, his story has never changed from that very first night. He's been very consistent about he had no idea what was happening. And to your point about the warrant, his attorneys were there, of course, while we were talking to him, and they can fill us in on how that warrant came to be and why this story does seem to have gone awry. Listen, it started out playing Uno and watching a movie.
Yeah.
And at the end of the night, only one person has survived that.
And now can we say there's nothing sadder or more tragic than a pair of baby shoes never worn?
Oh, gosh, Tony, there were so many things. It was a very, very, very tough day. Tomorrow you'll hear from Walker's lawyers, who spoke with us about his case and his pending lawsuit alleging police misconduct. You're watching CBS This Morning. We'll be right back.